All right, welcome to the podcast. This is our third podcast. I'm going to put this into a playlist now after this one. This is the second one on this channel. Every other one, we're bouncing back and forth. It's a podcast with no name. Should we...
I think
Are we being too serious about it? Like, should we just call it the Spicy Jake podcast thing?
Do it.
Sure.
There you go, Spicy Jake podcast.
That's it. Yeah, we do these podcasts, if you haven't caught the other ones, where we just talk about whatever things we feel like talking about. We have a subject in this one. And that subject, we have to try to talk about it some way. It's not going to make the two of us sound like we're old and decrepit and going, back in the day. But we think it's an interesting subject, which is sort of the history of motovlogging. The thing that me and Mr. Spicy here actually... It was how we met each other. It's what we did in the beginning over a decade ago. We did the first dual vlog ever. An idea we came up with and did it, and not only one, an international one. We did some cool stuff back then, guys, this thing that we've done has gone through so many changes to the point now where it's almost unrecognizable and may not even really exist technically anymore. I don't know how hardly anybody new coming into this thing actually calls himself a motovlogger. I think there's definitely people doing motovlogging in a way, but maybe not the way it was in the past. So, I mean, gosh, where do we even start with this? Do we want to say?
I think a point to make is the fact that when we started motovlogging, it wasn't really even a thing. It kind of was. Like, some people were kind of doing it, but it isn't this developed thing with accepted practices and stuff. Like, the first people I remember motovlogging were things like More Death, obviously. Rebel Yell 91, Toaster Go, all those people. Wooden Chairs. Who's another one I'm forgetting about? Svengali, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say Svengali. I think you've named all the old school ones I can think of.
I know, what's the Bilmer? Bilmer, by way of motorcycle, Bilmer, late Bilmer. He was also one of the very, very early ones.
Yeah, and like, I remember seeing What's It Called at one point and realizing that, I mean, this has been done in other senses outside of YouTube and other sites too. You could even look at things like the original Long Way Round, which was recorded in like the really early 2000s when Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman are mic'd up with cameras and they have Klaus with them. And they are essentially, they're doing it because they're giving you a daily log of what's happening, an account in real time on a motorcycle. That's them doing a motovlog back in the day before it was a motor. It's also so funny to look back at that thing. That was a big production thing, and how horrible it looks, the audio and the video when they're on helmet. But how just at the time to have a camera that size that you could stick on a helmet and have any kind of thing that works is now it's so easy. Now we have the much better options.
We will get into cameras. We've got a couple of funny things to show you. It was tricky back in the day, but
it was tricky. It took some dedication, but we'll go into that in a minute. But yeah,
really, and ingenuity to try and come up with things that would work. But I mean, let's say in the early days for me, like it was a very close community. Everyone who was a motovlogger knew everyone else pretty much.
You were subscribed to like everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like if somebody came up and was like, at least if they had like 10 or 12 videos, it seemed like they were actually dedicated to doing it. You're like, oh, I'll subscribe to that person,
And it was, in the UK, there was two people that I remember. There was Sven, who was quite near me, and there was Fragmaster Carl. Do you remember that guy with the DRZ?
Oh, yeah.
That's going back, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness,
but that's the thing. Like, at the time when I started here, there was, like, less than 5 people, I think, in the country that did anything close to motovlogging. In America, it was probably less than 50. And now, there's thousands of people. And it's kind of a bit weird to be there in the early days, and now, like...
It's like they don't even know those, like that whole thing that we know about. I mean, it's fine, because there's enough time, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's like they have no idea who these people are. Well, I don't even know who we are, No. But, like, it's just... And there's also so many now, like you can't keep up with it. It's just like anything now on YouTube, and people are like, oh, you don't know about whoever? He's amazing. It's like, there's too many people now. It's completely acceptable not to know.
Yeah, especially I have to say, people have to understand, when you work in YouTube, you spend so much time doing it, you don't necessarily spend an awful lot of time watching, well, for me anyway, watching a lot of motorcycle content, because I'm making it non-stop.
You're one of the few people that comes up in my recommendations. It's actually like a motovlogger because I do check out Spicy's videos, and I got a few other people there. But yeah, I'm like I can't keep up with all the different ones anymore, and I'm not. I don't know. I'd say I'm not interested. It's just like what you're saying. It's the grind of doing the same thing yourself. And unless you're like really good friends with that person, it's going to be difficult to keep up with it.
Yeah, there's also, I think in the past, you got to really know people for who they were because people would talk about everyday stuff. It really was a vlog. Now it's more like an 8-minute motorcycle-related video.
Yeah,
and
I
I'm the
think even you
presenter.
and me we're kind of doing that ourselves. You know, we're not necessarily because you really think about the history of what it was. Is well, there was blogging that turned into vlogging when people, and back in the day, it was literally them just putting a camera at themselves, and a lot of people would just do it sitting in their. Remember, like the old days of YouTube, it's like the first vloggers that were so famous were literally just like them sitting on their bed in their bedroom.
Well, I exist.
Talking about, like they weren't really talking about anything that interesting,
No.
and I think. That's where the it's kind of cool because if you look at what motovlogging was, it was like that same idea, but let's do it on a motorcycle, you know, mic'd up. Well, now it becomes kind of a travel thing, an adventure thing, which ended up becoming its own thing later on, obviously with people that, you know, would do more exciting things. But I think that's what kind of set us apart from general vloggers back then, is most of them were kind of boring. Yeah, they didn't do a lot of very interesting things, just a general vlogger. So a motovlogger was like, on a bike, this is really cool. And then I think personally, you and me just were super high energy compared to
one of the things.
A lot of other people.
Like, I was
old.
manically depressed, and I got on a bike, and I was just the happiest guy ever. So it all came out, and you know, we ended up in the same thing, screaming down the road with like a tree branch in your hand or a fan,
because we were trying to. Yeah, it was like an escape for us, and it was like it made it almost seem acceptable to do the silly things I was doing,
and also. You never felt then like anyone would ever find out who you are, because who's ever going to see these videos near me? I can do whatever I want. No one's ever going to know it's me.
I remember the first time I was at work, and somebody at work was like, "Hey, are you this guy on the internet?" I was like, shh, no. Don't talk about it. I think you had a similar thing too at one of your jobs, right?
Fortunately, no, I should say fortunately, I have been met many times through many different things from people coming up to me, people I work with who then go, by the way, I've been watching your videos for a while, and I'm like, you didn't say?
Dude, I've had stuff like that, even to this day. It's where like I'll be talking to different neighbors and people, and suddenly it comes out, they bring up something for one of my videos. I'm like, wait, you know who I am? Like,
in a personal friendly relationship, you should probably bring that up just so we're on the same level.
That was, I've got, that's happened too many times. But the, like with our, I think you and me though, we were, compared to the most people, like when people were doing this motovlogging, there were some people that were very high energy and exciting and had their kind of things. I think M13 was like the often credited as kind of the OG of it, and he had his own interesting attitude, which was, you know, love it or hate it. He was he had a thing that he did, and it was I mean, I think he wouldn't even get mad if us saying this. He was kind of an a-hole was kind of his thing at times, just to be kind of, you know.
But then it was like he was using shocking comedy, you might say. A lot of the stuff he said was for the shock factor. It wasn't like, he didn't mean it. It was funny for the shock factor.
And he also was one of the first people to do some really funny bits. Like, remember the biker rave?
That is how I found M13, but did not know that was M13 until multiple years after I was watching him, and was like, wait, it's the same dude.
What about to this day? Here's a meme. You guys there's plenty of people that have no idea what I'm talking about. But I'm going to tell you a meme. It's a still picture you'll know. Is a dude bent over with a helmet on, puking out McDonald's out of his helmet.
Just shoving it up in there.
Yeah, that was a bit he did. He's not really actually. He shoved so much stuff there and then shoved a shake down, then just let it like basically fall back out of his helmet. And that was a bit he did. And it's so funny how that like resurfaced a few years ago. And I see it all the time now. It's like a random still, like with some meme caption around it. I'm like, oh man, that's great. You know, and he influenced a lot of people back in the day too to get into this. I think he later then hated that. Remember, he had that whole thing. He didn't want anyone to be a part of it, which was really weird. But
yeah, but I mean, I can understand. It's like at times when we were so early on in it, to then for years later, people go, I didn't even know who you are or what you are. Like, it's like, well, we helped pave the way in ways. We had to, whereas before, when we started, the idea of making money or going to a company and saying, hey, could you lend me a product or something to do something like this, they were just like, sorry, what? Get out. And we're now way past that, to the point that it's now accepted that if you're a YouTuber, you get lent bikes and stuff. But it took someone to convince companies to do that. And I'm not going to say we are personally responsible, but we are of the time when we went from that not being a thing to when people were a thing. So I can understand from his position of no one was doing this, now everyone's doing it, and I'm not being seen as much as some of these people. I can understand it. It's frustrating, but...
Oh, for sure. I can tell you,
it's always going to happen.
You know, like, I've gone to a number of events in the last few years now, like Revzilla events and just different things, and I start kind of running into the same few crowds of people, and they're kind of the newer moto influencers. That's probably the modern word for it, right? You know, these moto influencers, and you know, I kind of start seeing the same crowd, and there's something there. You know, it's kind of neat to see some of them getting kind of a little community there. They kind of know each other, but again, there's so many to keep up with. But I do see the same faces, but these are all people that, you know, have only been into it for a few years, and their attitude about what you're saying about companies giving them stuff is like, I can tell you, I was in a conversation with me, a couple of these newer ones, and then me and somebody else. I won't say the names of these people, but somebody else who was like me, has been doing this for a long time, and they're going back and forth talking about this and that. It's like, and I told that company, you better get me this and get me that, and you know, they're all just bouncing this back and forth. This very, like, you know, it felt entitled to me, and then it kind of like me and the other two just looking at each other, and we finally like, you guys, like, we're trying to you gotta understand, this is something that's new. You guys just jumped into this, and we were there before this wasn't a thing. So like, you gotta, you know, we're trying to slow your roll a little bit. Yeah, like, and they actually all had good points. It's nice to see people have a business sense about it to some degree too, but also like dial it back a little bit and realize, like,
but maybe that's the maybe that works. Maybe supreme confidence. If you sound
supreme confidence, I don't know. I you should see some of the letters I wrote to companies of supreme confidence that still went to nowhere. Like, you and me both used to deal with drift, and yeah, it got us started, and we'll go into cameras later. But just on the business side of that, this was a company that made a camera that was actually really beneficial to the motovloggers back in the day, and yeah, I mean, I think they owe you money, I believe, right?
I think technically I am fully settled as far as I know.
Okay.
Other people were not.
There was a weird thing there for a while. We were like cool enough to, like, they were happy to give us stuff, and then I feel like they got a little too proud or too whatever there, and then they just,
well, they used people. They grew their company a bit by using people like us to promote cameras. And then they produced another camera, and we were getting close to this, but you know, they seem to stop listening to the people who use the cameras and tell us what we need. And there was a time where I actually spoke to the CEO of Drift on the phone for an hour, and realised that he did not care what we needed. He cared about what he thought we needed, and that was that. And I told him the company was going to do this if he did that, and I think we can safely say it's done that.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, yeah, that seems to be correct. I've not seen much from them since then. I think they're still technically around, but
they are. No, they've made their current cameras are like basically they are not very good quality, in my opinion. The field of view is way too narrow because they never moved back from that, and all it is they care about. Let me guess. Can you guess what it is? What is their number one priority in their cameras?
Is it going to be what, like, for
battery life?
Like, oh, battery life?
It's not got good quality, but it's got 9 hours of battery life. That's great. That's not much use to us.
9 hours?
I think it's not quite 9 hours. It's something like 5 hours.
Yeah, but like that's like...
But that's only important because they went from having batteries that you could change to inbuilt batteries. Ignore that hidden edit. It never happened. Right, I wanted to talk about the book of code. Do you remember the Motovlogger, unwritten book of code? You do and do not do these things, and it was what people lived by when it was motovloggers in the past.
It's important to understand the unwritten part of this. This was like...
It was never official, but everyone expected it of people.
Yeah, there was... What was the old forum page? There was like a motovlog forum page that someone tried to have for a while there. Remember that?
Yes.
I think that's where a lot of this was prevalent. This is where we would all communicate, and this is where... Basically, the short of it is there was kind of a real judgy attitude about who was the real ones and who wasn't.
And what you can and can't do.
Can't do in the early days.
In the early days, you could not make money. You were not allowed to make money. You were not allowed to do anything like that. And if you were seen to be trying to do that, you were... So
And this was where I almost immediately hit like some grinding with some people, because before I ever started actually making, like, I think we both started around 2011.
Yeah.
Right. But prior to that, I'd had videos since like 2006. I had 4 or 5 videos. They're just old, just terrible. Don't get the cameras yet, but just whatever. And I had made a couple videos, and a couple of these had actually hit over 100,000 views just randomly, and that was enough that my channel was monetized. And I just, okay, I can monetize it, sure. Like 2009, I guess, when Google acquired them, they made that a thing. I had clicked some buttons, and before I even made a motovlog, I had even got one of those $100 checks. That was the threshold you had to crest for them to send you a check. And I was like, whoa, I got $100? Like, wow, for a stupid video I put online.
But yeah, I mean,
but I was still, I wasn't like, let's do the motovlog thing to make money. I thought that was like,
well,
I thought at best that would be really cool if I could pay for gas every once in a while, is what I thought. But I was like, I was doing it, like all of us were doing it for the fun of it. But yes, like almost immediately there was ads on my videos, which got me some not so liked attitudes from other people.
Well, the thing is, at the point we started, it couldn't have been for the money, really, because there wasn't the money to be made. And you were in a different situation there, where you have to have a couple of videos that went well, but normally people had to work before
but it still was like a joke. Like every video I put up was not I say pay for the gas, literally was not. Like if I went out and rode my motorcycle and made a video, or even a couple videos. I remember how, like, I think you and me back in the day could do this thing where we'd go ride for like a couple hours and slam out, like we would record and make 4 or 5 videos. That was also a whole, you can't make videos like that now. People would not accept them. But that's where we just, and I'm going to quickly jump back into the history. I know we're going to get into this, Cody, but I think how vlogs were back in the day, you and me, I think, talked about this. We did the same thing. We'd keep notes. I kept a bunch of notes on my phone, and I'd be at work bored doing the mindless whatever I'm doing. I drove around a truck for Frito-Lay and stocked crisps, as Spicy called them. We had many phone calls where he would be chatting, and all I could hear was bags rustling around. But you're just bored, and I would sit there at work, and I'd come up with ideas. I feel almost like a comedian coming up with, like, how they come with their process. I would not just a subject, but sometimes I'd even have notes and funny things I would talk about. And I'd later go and just film these. So you could, like, go and ride and, like, look at my phone. Oh, I can do that one real quick. Boop. Oh, guys, blah, 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 willy, tell silly story. I did a lot of what I called bar stories, like the kind of stories you tell at a bar or a pub, those kind of funny stories. And you kind of, almost like a comedian, you add a little extra to them, you spice them up a little for a bit of fun, for a bit of comedic reason. And that was a lot of the videos we made back in the day. Now, what the heck were we even talking about? I knew going off of that tangent was dangerous for me, because I was going to forget. We were talking about the handbook. The
handbook. I was going to say, we didn't, when the option to make money came along, you were doing your Frito-Lay job, I was working as a chef, doing the same sort of thing, and we were fitting in filming in between doing stuff, and it was over time that you can find that you can pan off some for the other, and your situation wasn't great. I don't know how much you've talked about all of that, but
what, like how I actually went full-time?
Well, yeah, but the reasons you left that job wasn't exactly ideal. They were not Jake doing something wrong, it was them, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was a combination of things. There was some weird stuff at my work, but also I'll give you the quick version of it that fits in this type of format. Is that the job, there was some weird stuff at work, and I was selling rock gear, which was a job I'd gotten through doing YouTube. So I was selling merchant. I had not just the brand Rock, I had several brands which I literally sold. I had an office and a garage full of merchandise, and I sold this stuff. That was a way to make money. Plus I was starting to actually make some money off of YouTube. And I still was making nowhere near what my main job was making, but with whatever was going on at work, and then I got some slip discs in my back, which were causing me to have to go get injections in my back, and I just kind of was like, I took a paid time off, or whatever, like a disability for a short term, and when that ran out, I said, I think I'll just do this full time, and it was, I feel like you were the same when you actually left your job to go do this full time. It wasn't like, I feel like a lot of YouTubers that go full time, they've had a channel explode and they've just, this is it's like a no brainer. Yeah. Where I think you and me were both like, I could probably wing this.
What I did was, when I was a chef, because I had injuries from a crash as well, and I needed to take time. I couldn't stand as much. Turns out I had a broken foot I was walking on for 18 months and needed surgery on. But I was giving up. I realised that I could lose a day work with them and do enough on that day to make up for it in the other one. And as you know, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's 2 days, 3 days a week. Now you're like, well, hang on a minute, I'm spending more time doing this than that, and it's just more stressful trying to do both. Why don't I just go and do this? But I didn't then only do that, because I did YouTube for a while and it all was okay. I'm trying to remember all of this. Then I did the Metalworks.
Yeah, you did the
And I was doing stuff. Oh, I did social media. That's what I did. I left the pub and I did social media for that bike cafe for a year.
Yeah,
and then that went a bit. That's a whole nother story for another day.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, you and me both had some random side.
But
side
I've always
hustles
had
to make YouTube
something
work.
next to it to earn extra money until about 4 years ago when I got Patreon, and it saved my butt because I was down to my last month's rent basically, and
you were so resistant.
Skimmed through.
Do you remember though? I'd already been doing it for a couple years, and you were like. You were very resistant to doing it because of the old Motovlog handbook and the stuff that we still had ingrained in us, and which is why it was important. But I think you saw what you looked at my approach to doing it. We're like, okay, this is not like, because let's be honest, there were some people out there where they were really like,
well, the
way they did it
really
was a little bit more turned up and up.
On was that I was doing that job, the social media job at the time. And someone, because I said, no, I don't want to take any cash from anyone, any donations, nothing, no PayPal, no, nothing like that. I'll do it all myself. Because I thought that was going to work. Because at the time, it looked like YouTube was going well. And then 2016 hit and the YouTube changed. But anyway.
Yeah, the 16, 17, was it 17 the crash?
Yeah, 16 was first apocalypse. The reason I went to actually have an open PayPal was because somebody sent £100 in cash in an envelope addressed as Spicy to the place that I worked for. Now, no one told me about this, and it was put into the safe. The place got broken into, and the police were there, and they wanted to know, why are you having random amounts of cash left in random envelopes anonymously to you here? And I had to explain what that was all about, and then went, right, I don't want people to send me money, but if you're going to the point of actually putting cash in an envelope and sticking it to my work where I can't control, I'm going to have to give you the option to just do it. So I don't want you to help me, but here it is. Now, that happened around the same time that the DR went very much broken, and I had to replace the bore and all of that sort of stuff. So it actually saved my butt. So the history of it all is, I wasn't necessarily happy about it, but I'm glad I accepted it. But the reason I accepted it in the original point was not through my choosing.
Yeah. I mean, you had some times there too, like everything kind of piled up. And then, that was the other thing too, is that there was this really good time in YouTube where AdSense was actually like really good. And that was all before the adpocalypse. And I was, of all things too, I was in Maker Studios, which was, owned by Disney, which is the one that PewDiePie also was with, that the whole Wall Street Journal, so for instance, I think it was started around 2017 is when the article hit. Wall Street Journal.
I was saying, you were with RPM first, and then it turned into Maker, and then it got bought into Disney.
I basically kept getting like bumped up or whatever, and that was back. Okay, there's multi-channel networks. That's a whole thing y'all.
I was also in the same one, and I also got absolutely bent over for 2 years.
Well, here's the thing. You guys, most people did. I somehow got into the good graces of being in the good part of one that eventually got owned by Disney, and it was making me money very well. And to give you an idea, after the apocalypse, so first 2 months of the year, I'm with Maker Studios, which means my checks literally would come to me, said Disney Inc. on them. Mm-hmm. I made the same amount of money the first 2 months of that year that I made in the next 10 months. So that's how bad my pay was cut. Oh my God, the camera. Sorry, I got to be careful doing.
Your camera's all right on my end.
It's good.
Yeah.
I think it's about to. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, we're good. This camera I'm using. I'm sorry. If I do random motions, it was trying to find a whiteboard. I must be careful with my hands. I think I could turn that off, but we'll do that another time.
It's very silent. If anyone's curious how we're doing this, right? I am recording through OBS the screen capture. And I'm recording my audio separately from this mic onto a small device. Jake is recording his audio in OBS, and then in the main video that I edit, I basically put the two good audios on top of each other with the video, and bish bash bosh, you have this video.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be people now commenting, there's easier ways to do that.
I'm
sure there is, but this was a
works.
workflow thing. And
the amount of times people have said to us, no, you should do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, but my 10 years experience tells me that is cool, but it won't help you when you need it to.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
this code though, this code. Let's break
Yeah,
into
let's
this real quick.
break.
I mean, yeah, there was basically a number of things that like people seem to be upset with you about. I think,
Being
there
successful.
was being successful, and that was a weird thing for me is that I started doing these videos, and then within a year or two, I became the biggest person in the world making
Yeah.
motovlogs, and I had a really long run of it too. If you remember, I was 4 or 5 years. I was the biggest guy doing this on YouTube,
I had
and
my time in the UK when I was
yeah,
basically
yeah,
number one.
you were over there, and then
Not for long.
like once but once I was at that level, do you remember though that people thought I should be enforcing the rules when somebody else did something wrong? They would say, Jake, aren't you gonna say something about flip flop 83 over there selling
That's a
merch?
great
And I'm
name.
like,
Go on.
and I was like, no, because this is silly, and
Yeah.
and what if, how ridiculous would it sound if I actually were to say with authority, hey now, listen up here, that's not how we do things, and
But don't-
I'm the king right now, I'm the king, so you have to do what I say. Like, it would be
People used to
absurd.
say that we had to be the role models to people, though. Have you seen how influencers are role models to children now?
Yeah, that was the thing. That was another thing too. I got a lot of heat on because I was cracking wheelies and I was a little bit of a hooligan. That was honestly a big part of my channel back in the day, which I think set me apart. I think it's the reason I did blow up is that I was most of the people that made the motovlogs, even if they were on sport bikes or whatever, they aren't really doing anything. They weren't like riding real fast. They weren't doing anything real crazy. You know, there were some people that were quick for sure, but like they weren't doing anything dynamic, if you will. And I literally would start my videos off. That was a funny thing. I actually remember this wasn't like an accident. Like I thought of doing this, and now I do it without even thinking about it, which is even funnier. But like I would start a video off and be talking about something. In the middle of talking about something, I would just start wheeling. But not like make a note that I'm wheeling, not make that a thing.
Not make
just
a video
continue
about
with whatever
wheeling.
I'm talking about, and then on top of that, I would just like fly across a golf course or something, or ride through some abandoned thing or some old neighborhood and start playing around doing burnouts, doing whatever. And I never really made mention of that. I never was like, I'm doing this now, woo! It was just like, and anyways, then she said, you know, I'm doing.
Do you think that might have something to do with the fact, because I did similar things, that we both had supermotos and that just does that to you? It's what you do. That's what...
Yeah.
You want to know what a supermoto rider does on their own? They don't ride around like a normal person. They're like, oh, what's that? It's a couch. Let's try and drive into it.
Yeah, like that was the thing. I think a lot of people assumed that I like did that because I was on camera, and I would, especially back then, younger me. Now I would tell them though when the camera's off,
Worse.
I'm actually way worse. I'm terrible. I'm just like constantly second after second, like go up here, go where I'm not, always going where I'm not supposed to be going. It's so, God, it's gonna make me feel so old now, and I bet you're on the same level now. Like there's times where I'll be sitting there at a light, do something, I'll look across some field and see some big hill across something or something, and I'm like, oh, I would be so cool to do that. But that can't do that. Then probably get the police called and all this other. You know, it's just like younger me would have just gone. I would have looked at it and be like, and just went.
Well, there wouldn't have been a thought. It's just go.
Go, yeah, go. And I don't know why I wasn't worried about the police. And it was also funny too to think back then how many more police interactions I had with the stuff I was doing, and now how I just never ever do, because when I am doing what I do, I'm not just, I don't know.
Anyway,
also we've been hurt enough too. We have to
Yeah,
be more
I
careful
was gonna
of
say,
those
we
things.
both-
You and
it's like,
me have
we
fallen off
started
bikes
out-
too many times.
we started this young, relatively uninjured, and both of us now have destroyed backs, bad knees. So it takes a
I got
toll.
a thing
on
in my
you.
wrist that won't stop like for like years now. You know what I had at one point? I had one of those little like the bike slipped for a minute doing those little pops.
Yeah.
And it did something to my wrist. This was when on my XR 650R. It's never recovered. I should probably go to the doctor for it.
Probably.
But well, this
Why
is
have you got
America, so
time
it
for
just
that?
cost me a lot of money.
Yeah,
know?
it cost you a lot there, and for me, I just never going to happen because
Yeah, like what was that meme I said the other day? It was like it was America's like it was your country. It was like, oh, I think I've got a broke whatever. They're like, oh, okay, you'll have an appointment in 46 weeks. Then it was the American. I've got the same thing. All right, here's your bill, $65,000. Then the Canadian. And they said, do you consider death or whatever assisted suicide? I was like, yeah, this is very real, unfortunately.
Okay, so anything else? I think that almost. I'm sure there's some other nuanced parts of the book of code, like the fact that on
Yeah,
YouTube
it all eventually just kind of dissolved away, though, along with the community and everything else.
And I
where
think-
it's just because it bloated and grew, and as it grew, I want to say this is the thing, right? As this community kept growing and doing more and more, it becomes
More segmented.
It's diluted. It's diluted. I'll say.
Diluted, more segmented.
Diluted.
You have concentrations over here, and people have different ideas about what they want to do.
It's such a thing now that something like this would never exist. Also, too, in general, the idea of making money on YouTube and doing it as a business. I mean, people finally, at least that's a good thing that we can say about today, is they got over that. And they realized that, you know, a lot of people put in this effort. You know,
maybe in America. I'm still an unemployed.
No, you guys still do a little over there.
Deadbeat.
That's y'all's general British attitude of, we don't want to see anyone to succeed over here. Oh,
he's doing better than me. Now I feel bad about myself. He's got to be the problem. Shun him. I'm not doing better than other people. It's their perception. That's the other thing. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this job. I love doing this, but I earn less than minimum wage, basically. So don't look at me like I'm in some wonderful position. I am, but I could just go and do any other job in this country and earn more money. So it's about the passion and the love of doing it. 1000%.
Oh yeah, like I think even as big as my channel's gotten at times, and where I was, like, in this industry, like it was just the timings didn't work out, because like if I had like I think the highest growth of my channel, and it was just growing the fastest it was, and the views were so high, if that was today, companies and things would have been really good for me, but at the time it just wasn't able to make that money like that. And so like I was, so my point is, even at the height of things, when I was getting that bigger check off from Maker Studios, I wasn't rich, like you and me have never been on that level of being YouTubers. Which is makes us also unique too, how like most people that are full-time that do this have become very successful. Well, it's like you and me we've chipped away at it, that's what we've done. We've always had to chip away. I also think you and me have never had what a lot of people have had that have had channels of our size has had, where they had some massive moment that it accelerated their channels. We just chipped away at them. We just chipped away.
All YouTube channels, if you look at them throughout their life, will go in a bell curve. And if you have a really big success in viral videos in the beginning, you'll get a curve that's really high, but really narrow. I want to flatten the bell curve. I don't want to be super rich for 5 minutes. I want to be poor, but for my entire life.
That's so depressing.
But doing what I love, because then I feel like I'm rich in life. I don't care about money. I don't care about anything about other stuff. I care that I am on this world for so much time, and the most of my time that I can spend doing what I enjoy, I feel like I'm winning over someone who's got billions of pounds.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So,
then the billionaire looks at me.
You and me, since we do, we both do this YouTube, obviously, and we communicate, I think especially you and me now with our Discords linked to our Patreons, we have a very direct link with our viewers, particularly the ones that support us, and that's been really great. And then you and me also will go to, we've been to our own different meetups with, hundreds of people around us coming to us. Would you say you're an extroverted or introverted kind of person?
Oh, I'm definitely an introvert in the sense that I like spending time on my own and I don't like being in crowds of people. However, when I'm in those events, I'm more like an extrovert because I'm actually really enjoying it. But the entire time up until I'm like, oh, can I really...
It's like a build-up, though, sometimes, isn't it?
Sometimes.
I think about this sometimes, too. It's like you got to kind of, like, preserve your energy. You got to get, like a bit of,
I don't know.
Whatever energy. You kind of build your battery up, and you go to this thing, and it's awesome. It charges up, and then afterwards, you kind of want to chill and do your own thing. But I'd say you and me now, though, through things like our Discord and this. I know you're still at your house doing anything, but here's what I say. I know you've always said this to me, that you're introverted. I asked the question, knowing that you know that, but I don't think you are quite as much as you think you are, to just be able to do what you do, and maybe in a different way, a different sense. But like, you and I have got to be. We're obviously putting ourselves out there in a way that somebody who's really closed off would never do.
Well,
I think you and I have also spoke about things in videos that we would never have talked about. And I'll even go this far. I'll say, before doing this YouTube stuff, I don't know if I would say I was introvert. I have always kind of liked being around people, but I don't know if I would also say I'm a full-blown extrovert. It's whatever, but like if right now you could give me a mic and I would go stand in front of a bunch of people I don't even know, not even people, and have zero problem talking to them. I have my ability to speak to people in public and be very comfortable. Not like it's like a fake thing too. Like I'm just completely could do it calmly, and that came from YouTube. I know it did. It came from the YouTube and the meets and the talking to so many people. We've done it to such a level that it's not a thing anymore.
Well,
I think
you
for
just
you
have
and
to
me.
remove the anticipation of public speaking and things like that. The only thing I don't like about, well, one of the reasons that gives me sort of anxiety about doing public meets is just that sometimes when you meet people, the way you want it to go is, oh, hey dude, love your video, shake your hand, have a chat for 10 minutes or whatever, and then you carry on. It's when someone's like, oh my god, I can't believe it's you, and then they look at you like you're about to start doing your performance or something, or if you're a comedian, you're like, hang on, let me do your little set. So, you remember the other day? And you're like, all I can do is
Start
say
doing
hi.
magic in front of them.
Got your nose.
No. We have to do what we do. We say, "Oh yeah, hi. Oh, you like what I do?" Then just start going. So, anyways, I was,
But I get it.
I walked
do
into
get
a
it.
bar.
Oh, dude, right.
I've never felt like I needed to do a performance for people, but I do say I think actually when people do get overly like when they meet us, my goal is to like lower your expectation. I know it sounds weird, is to make you realize I'm just a dude. If you hang out with me for like 5-10 minutes, you're gonna figure out I'm just a dude. Although I will say one of the comments I've gotten a lot of times, and it's a funny comment, especially that I've gotten it numerous times at big motovlogger meetups. People will say to me, and they'll come and say, "It's weird, dude." They said, "You're really the same person in real life that you're on your videos, and you're really like." They'll tell me I'm not fake or something like that, and I'm like, "Are you getting that from other people?" And they're kind of, it's okay,
Technical
But I'm like,
hit. Sorry, Jake. Technical hitch. I'm about to lose battery, and we're about to lose audio. I have to restart that audio recorder. Jake, please carry on. He won't remember where he was.
I don't remember where we were.
We were talking.
It was
about,
interesting times. I think we were talking about meeting up with people and this and that.
Have you got better at public speaking?
Yeah,
and
but I think it's been good for us. I will say I think it's been good for the both of us. Also, general, I'm gonna say you and me talking to as many people as we talk to from around the world.
Yeah.
And you and I, when things happen, big things, news things, you're the person I want to talk to because you and me have a very similar, like we've got a lot of perspective talking to so many other people.
Yes.
That I like to talk to you about things more than anybody, things that are going on in this world.
I think it really helps having groups of people that you might not necessarily interacting with people who you might not necessarily call friends, having opinions of people who you might not necessarily agree with, just hearing everything and then just picking something out of the middle and then or not being too committed to anything unless you're sure of it. It makes more reasonableness.
Yeah. And you and me have also had many conversations
and disagreements.
Like disagreements, but like to a level that most friends wouldn't go. But we've drawn there because we've known each other for too long, so we ran out of things to talk about. So that's why we had to.
Do you mean like controversial things, or do you mean like...
Sometimes, yeah. You and me have talked about. We were talking about something. I'm not going to bring up the subject. But we were talking about something just yesterday that you and I were. We got a little mad at each other at one point. And I was fine with it because
it's fine.
I'm like mad, but I was like, I wanted to say you SOB at one point. Listen to me.
and I was like, are you for real? But it's...
Yeah, I know.
But no one knows exactly what is going on, so...
But it's good. I want to, like, I need that hit back from you sometimes, and we need to hear these different things off each other. It's just, what does this have to do with motovlogging? I don't know, but if you are somebody who does these things, it's good. In any community, reach out, talk to other people. Yeah, it's a great thing to do.
Being a YouTuber, I will say that being a YouTuber, for all the stress it's been, I think it's helped us as people become much more stronger, many more skills, confidence.
We've learned to have our income yanked out from under us
and still survive. You also deal with stress really well, because when like COVID and everything happened and everyone was freaking out, I'm like, it's just another thing, we'll deal with it. You just get bombarded with stressful things so much, you're just like, I don't care.
There's aliens here now. That's what yeah.
Anyway, right, so to round off the Book of Code section, so we can go on some more interesting stuff. I do think that the Book of Code died when AdSense for small channels did, because for many years we were criticised by the small channels that weren't doing so well for you only do it for the money. And then when the adpocalypse came along and those small channels couldn't make their possible $100 check every year or every 2 years, depending when they get to that threshold, so many of the small channels quit within a month of them learning they were never going to make any money out of it.
Think about the ones that weren't even small, that were like medium-sized, even like some good-sized channels that bolted when the money went away. Instead of trying to grind through it and figure it out, they just said forget it. And I was fortunately, kind of going back to the Patreon thing, I had one already before that, but in a really weird sense, not for like make my income. Do you remember what mine originally was?
No.
The money that was made from it whatever money I made from it went to its own account, and the Patreons got to vote on what that was spent on. It had to go to something to go back into the channel. One of the very first things they did, they told me to go buy a Grom. I wasn't going to buy a Grom. They told me to buy a Grom with the money that was being put in there every month. So I was able to easily make the payment for what they put in there. And then we were able to do other things too. And that was something that they voted for me to do. And I love it. It's so great too, because that was something I wasn't going to buy. I was like, these Groms are stupid. And then it was so fun. It was a great fun time. Kind of want another one now.
Yeah, well, this is the thing when it comes to...
But yeah, I was able to roll that. I remember having to do a video and saying, look, everything's broken. Can we like do this? And I mean, and it was, you know, and I think you've seen the same thing. The support is way higher than you're always expecting it to be from the people. They're like, absolutely. And a lot of people even upped their pledge and did things like that to, you know, because they knew this was crazy and they wanted to see you stick around. And I think too, I feel like I might sound like we're just plugging the Patreon, but the Patreon, and I support a number of other people's too, because it's the way of saying, you know, YouTube with all its silly BSery, and it looks like we're going to go through another adpocalypse now. And there's also definitely things where there's things that they push, things they like, they don't like. And I don't particularly think at times people like us that make motorcycle videos is on the top of their priority. Yeah. So you see the algorithm getting messed with and played with. And they'll flush out things that they don't want to stick around. That's just YouTube's thing. And, you know, luckily we've been able to get out to enough people to build a Patreon following that is support his channel. And I've always thought it was kind of a middle finger to YouTube to say, no, we don't care what you're doing. We're going to keep this rolling anyway. And I will say, now you and I are both primary on that.
There is also another side to this, that if someone said, because I recently talked about how important Patreon is, because both of us, if Patreon the company went down tomorrow and there was no alternative, I think both of us would be in a position of like, well, looks like we're going to get a job or some other way of replacing that income. And
that'd be scary.
Someone said to me the other day in a video, well, the problem is there's so many YouTubers I like. How do you know which ones to support? And you were mentioning that you support some channels. So I don't know which channels you choose to support, but I tend to support channels which are small and are clearly struggling to keep doing what they want to do. Not channels that are quite clearly rolling in cash, because the projects they've got rolling through are hugely expensive and they only last 2 episodes, and then it's another thing and another thing, and then there's an ad and an ad and an ad and an ad and an ad. So I pick people that look like they need the money and could do with it. It's more valuable to them than someone who's just putting it on top of a big pile.
Yeah. In fact, that's actually, I need to go through. I always try to have at least 5 or 6 people a month.
Yeah, I think I've got 5.
Money at. And I recently had to remove a few of those for the exact reason. Not because it was like I was anything against them. It's just, no, you're doing clearly you're
doing okay.
And then also a lot of the people too. Here was a thing too that I hate is when people have like a minimum of like $5 on their thing. I'm like, or I've had a lot of people that I was supporting that suddenly were like minimum $5. I was like, bye.
Yeah, I've considered raising mine to 2. I won't do it though.
Yeah, I think you're better off not. And that was
no, actually, I don't agree.
I
did the sums. If you double the money, less than half the people will most likely leave, and in which case you'll actually end up earning more money, and then everyone who joins on after that, you'll then earn twice as much. So one person is worth the same as 2. But the point is,
but you and I grew up in the Catholic Church. You grew up in the Catholic Church of motovlogging, where we have the 10 Commandments of motovlogging shoved down us, and we think we're going to go to motovlogging hell if we don't. If we get too greedy. Really, have you ever like that's like people that grew up in a very strict Catholic environment. They get shell shocked for things, and I think you are. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think that you and I don't want to sit there and like go into like, if we go too deep in this, it'll be us calling out people and also sound like us just complaining and being crotchety. But I think you and I have tried to be more honest, than a lot of other channels have been, to our own demise at times. Like, it's not been as profitable.
You're like, hang on a minute, but if I keep honest and always tell the truth so I don't annoy people by making them buy products that actually turn out to be complete crap because they paid me to say it was good, then in the long run people will love me more. No, that is not the way it works.
Yeah, but here we are.
Well, should we end the book of code? Do you want to talk about cameras at this point?
Yes, I want to talk about cameras.
Okay. Where do you want to start? Because what was the first camera you used?
Well, let's just suck this, right? This is like a technical side of the thing, but this is something that back in the day when me and Spicy here got into this, it took some dedication because, there wasn't just you go buy this and it works. There's a lot of those today. I can give you at least 3-4 cameras and mic setups right now today that you could shove into basically any helmet, even an open like dirt helmet,
Yep.
and you could have a working setup. This was not the case in the beginning. And so you and me, well, I think it's funny. I wanted you to talk about your first setup
I have
first
props.
because it predates mine, and I think it's a very. You want to show
At the
this?
time I started motovlogging, I think the first GoPro hadn't been released, or if it was the first
Hero.
one, the Hero.
They had a few GoPros. It was the Hero 1, Hero 2 came out around the time.
Right, I don't know what year they came out, but it wasn't available. It wasn't something I could think about spending money on. So
yeah, exactly. Were they $500?
So I had an iPhone 4. Yes. So what I did, and this is a plastic pot on it. This was strapped to my chest like this on my bag. This hands-free kit went in my helmet, and that was my motovlogging setup.
What was really funny is when you showed me some of those original videos right after we started talking to each other. You're like, they actually were reasonable.
Well, it's because
the
the quality,
time.
because the, if I can get out of the case, the iPhone 4. Oh my god, it's actually almost stuck in there. This phone,
It's cold welded itself.
this phone.
No, that's a 4. They're more durable, aren't
4.
they?
Yeah,
No, the 4s have glass back, don't they?
Yeah, yes, so it's got duct tape on it because it's smashed.
Yep.
The quality of video that came out of this was so far and ahead of everything else that existed that the quality out of this was better than some cameras that you could buy at the time, which is why I was like, this is what I need to use. This is it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a camera from a company called Epic, which I think technically is still a camera company. These are really cheapo, like Chinese cameras. And I have to tell you the story. It's so funny. So I was working at a Sam's Club overnight, stocking. This is after, forget the adpocalypse, I'd gone through the 2008 crash where I was a mechanic and lost that job.
Hey, I lost a job in that as well.
Yeah, oh, dude, it was. You and I have an interesting parallel of.
We both worked in petrol stations. We've both done menial jobs and been fired for stupid reasons. We've both been hurt a lot. We both started YouTube about the same time. We both have DRZs, but you had yours before mine. I got mine because I saw yours and liked it. But
yeah, and we have another parallel here. But yeah, I had this camera that was. They had a pallet of these cameras and they hadn't sold, so they got to a point they were $20 a piece. So I bought 2 of them. And it's like this little tube camera, and I didn't have any audio. I literally zip tied it to the side of my helmet. Actually, the first few videos I zip tied it to the bars, which is terrible. It was just and the field of view is so bad, and it's 240p, and stupid dog. So it was this whole thing, those were those old videos though. I want to say they got some views somehow, but then yes, when you and me went to get into vlogging, we both. I think saw the same camera because it was so much cheaper than I think the Hero 2 had just come out. And it did have a direct headphone jack into it.
That was one of the things.
Although still the audio took a powered condenser, I want to say, to fix it. The Motovlogging was none of these mics were at the beginning could just handle the noise level that came.
No.
These were meant to be a lapel mic that you stood around and did a vlog with. So we're shoving these into the camera. But do you want to show them? We both have our own
first
cameras
one.
here.
We both independently, without arranging this, got them out.
Mm-hmm. And they're sticky.
Yeah, look, it's butyl, that rubber butyl that breaks down, and it's so sticky. But what I will say
it's got fur
is
stuck
if you
all over it.
plug this into a power bank, not the batteries,
because
they still turn on.
It still works. I did it recently. Yeah, it won't.
And this thing, if you're wondering, was the back door.
Yeah.
Is where the battery went and the mic went. So their solution for rain was to just shove that on there.
At least they gave you something because nobody else to this day.
Didn't.
If
you had to buy this separately.
Yeah, but I'm saying at least they made this. And then actually, I had this in the rain numerous times. Oh, there's your.
The hinge just snapped.
Did it just break?
The plastic's rotten.
Oh, no. I don't even want to attempt to close mine. Mine's been open for so long. I'm pretty sure it'll break
stop
this.
touching it. It's bound to give you something.
All right. I'm gonna just slap.
I will because I have them here. I'll show you the progression of cameras after that. So we had that.
Yeah, but let's explain what this is real quick though. This was the Drift Stealth
170.
HD 170. This is a 1080p camera, and back in the day, the way you would set one of these up, like the old school way, is that here's one of the things that makes theirs unique. They had their own proprietary mic that plugged into this, and you could adjust the audio level, and that was a big thing. So what we had to do for our type of videos, you had to crank it all the way to the lowest setting, and you still had to shove it like behind the cheek pad. But yeah, this thing had a clip, This is, I will give them this. Everybody, even to this day now, everyone copies the GoPro setup.
Yep.
They went completely different. They had this thing that locked into the side of your helmet. You could adjust it this way, then you could turn this lens this way. You just had to make sure you had to somewhat get it on the round part like this.
Yeah.
And this was your setup, and this thing was dumb reliable. And I think you and me almost never used the 1080p. I think we both were doing 720 at 50 frames. Remember they had that weird 50 frames?
Always go for 50. It's as close to 60 frames as you can get, regardless of the quality behind it. I think is the...
So yeah, I was rocking that setup. Also, really funny thing, I was always uploading these videos in the actual 50 frames a second, which YouTube didn't support. But then years later, someone queued me up to. They said, "Did you know your videos? You have a bunch of 50 frame a second videos from back in the day." I'm like, that's so weird. But basically, let me also explain this too. It wasn't that this sounded good. If you and I go back and we listen to our own videos, this was the measure of the mark that you had to achieve, was that can you actually hear what he's saying at all? Doesn't matter if it's distorted or hard. You have to crank it up, and it's just horrible to listen to.
That's so
can
true.
You actually make out the words that person's saying? And if you got home and you put your headphones on, you go, I can actually hear that I said, "Oh my freaking God!" You're like, it worked. Also, I'm gonna point another thing out. I actually was rocking a dirt helmet when I first started, which everyone said you couldn't do for motovlogging. It was too much noise. So I had to have it shoved way back. Like, it was almost back here at the microphone. Mm-hmm. And so when you hear me yelling in the old videos, yes, I was excited and young and happy to do this, but I'm also yelling because it was the only way the microphone could hear me. So I'd be going down there. The fun is when I'd be stopped at a light and I'd just be going ah, bah, 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 with an open dirt helmet, and people are just looking at you like, what in the hell is wrong with this guy? And
I think actually, that you were saying about introvert extrovert thing. Normally someone who's an introvert would care about what people look at them outside like doing, but I have never been concerned about being sat at a set of traffic lights, my arms flailing around talking about stuff, or people look at me and I'm just like, hi, why are you staring? And they're like, oh God, and they walk off.
That is true. I
never had that problem. Never concerned me. But people in the early days are like, I can't believe he'd do this in front of those people. What are they thinking of him? And it's like, I don't care.
I'm almost going to say it's like, I won't say I was like bullied, but I wasn't like a popular kid in school.
I was bullied.
Like
I was full on bullied. So yeah.
I was in middle school, but not by the time I was in high school. Probably because I went to a high school with so many people, like you just kind of disappear, mm-hmm. And that was kind of what I did, And so I was just very used to not caring what other people thought already. By the time I was doing this in life, I was like, I don't care if this person thinks I'm a weirdo. I also used to love doing the thing like. Nowadays, this would lose complete shock value, but when me and my wife, we got married all the way back in like 2006, we'd be going in somewhere and her arms would be full. I'd be like, give me your purse. And I'd put her purse on and just walk through a store with my wife's purse on, because I thought it was funny that if people were going, huh? Nowadays, that just is a thing, so it wouldn't matter anymore. You don't get the shock value. It was funny to do that, just have people go, what?
Well, it's like a game I used to, or do occasionally still do, which is when you're walking with someone down the street, as you could walk past someone, you just say a line out of a conversation you're not having, to see how embarrassed you can make the person next to you. So, for instance, you'll be walking along just talking about anything, and then as a person walks past, you go, I cannot believe your grandma bought that. I can't say it because I don't want us to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And people are just like, and the person next to you's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And then someone else will walk past and you'll say something completely ridiculous and unrelated. And then you're like, and then I just imagine for that person walking past, like, you will not believe what I heard today someone saying.
I love things like that to what you're saying, just to think about that later. Like, what is that person thinking? I can remember my dad doing, I know we're going off the subject here, my dad, we'd be kids driving somewhere in the car, and you'd see someone, walking down the sidewalk, and he'd honk and wave at him. He doesn't know this person. I said, why would you do that? He goes, because they're going to think about it for the rest of the day. And that just tickled him. It's not super mean, This is
the same reason I used to go around shouting cheese and fish names at people, because police, he's running down the street and he keeps saying gorgonzola and different types of fish at people.
I hope that someone actually called that in at one point.
I doubt it.
Didn't make my day. But anyways, cameras. Yeah, we really had to try in the olden days, and then things.
This seemed like the problem is solved. The world has finally arrived for us.
Yeah, and for us, if we all, and this is honestly would be true, if they had taken this and just kept upgrading it and kept upgrading it and kept upgrading it, This would be amazing.
Well,
but they didn't do that.
They did.
They did at a point.
To this
And
point.
then they stopped.
Removable batteries.
Was that the Ghost or the
Ghost
S?
S. So this
There
is
was the original Ghost, which was that same body style.
Yeah.
But a big bump up, and then the Ghost S, which was the Ghost S 4K?
No. This was 1080p 60 FPS, I think.
Was it okay? 60. I think it might have had a 1440 thing, but you would have had to go down to like 25
no,
frames.
not on this point, not the S. I'm sure it didn't have that. I might be wrong. We can check that out. But this was like the pinnacle for drift because removable batteries, 3.5mm jack, same position on the side of your helmet.
Yeah,
still
that's
twist
the big
the
thing.
lens.
This one took its own weird proprietary mic. In fact, the reason I had to upgrade away from this is I did the really dumb thing. Is I had, you obviously have a cable coming out the back with a jack. I accidentally rocked this thing up onto like my bike seat one day. It snapped that thing off, and Drift had stopped selling that microphone, and it was its own weird port. So you're done.
But,
so I actually went to a Hero 3.
But that was the last good motovlogging. This was, for me, I still think to this point, almost until in the past year or so, where you found some solutions for plugging audio into cameras and making it work. This was one of the last cameras which actually worked reliably with a built-in microphone. A case of on, record, go, off, fine.
Yeah, anybody, we could tell people how to set this up, and it was pretty easy.
They then moved on to the 4K, which is even smaller, and for comparison to the first one, it's ridiculous. But the 4K is one of the worst cameras that was ever made. And if people want to disagree with me about that, I have one here that says NFG on it, and I have another one in a box down there which nearly blew up because one of the problems with this camera is that there is a reset button because you can't turn it off by pulling the battery out because it's built-in battery. They also made the audio USB on the bottom, but yeah, the reset button is down in a hole, just a tiny little hole in the corner. Now, if you don't see the 1mm high R to say reset, and you plug it and you press it into the other one, yeah, you're going to pierce the battery pack inside it.
It can't be removed.
No.
And that would have been a really, yeah. Yeah, there was the, I went to that Hero 3,
so I'm just going to do it now.
The Hero 3,
Here's proof that this has happened. I have a broken 4K.
I wish I'd gotten more of them. I have a bunch of them in bags over there, but yeah, my Hero 3, I remember being really excited about that. I was almost going to be just a full-blown GoPro fanboy, which people were being such fanboys of GoPro at that point. They were like, GoPro could do no wrong. They were, I don't know. It was so, and I got it, and initially you're like, oh, wow, this is a big step up in quality, and it was. Like, it was very good quality, but the microphone, you had to run the little mic adapter, and then to make, the audio still wasn't good. I had to run a powered, little condenser mic on there with so I had to remember to switch that on, and that was a whole thing. But fine, I'd gotten past that, and then the camera, oh, it's so good. The problem was, and a lot of action cameras have had this problem, particularly GoPro viewers, is they're pushing the limits to such a degree of what can be like written onto SD cards, for instance, or what the processors can handle. That if you have it, we've talked about this before, you almost don't usually want to run them in the full max settings because they will have problems. But originally, when the Hero 3 came out, SD cards couldn't write fast enough, the micros, and that was a big problem. And so that was, it was so glitchy, it became so unreliable. It was just me going to make a video, and it was 50-50, it was going to work. So yeah, luckily the Ghost S came out, or the Ghost, and I think Drift gave them to us.
Yes, Drift gave us just. I was an ambassador for Drift. I was getting, ambassador for it. I basically had a discount code, but also I spent a lot of time helping them, or trying to help them develop cameras, working on software.
Yeah, there was a time where they would listen to us. Yeah,
but then they stopped.
Yeah, but yeah, for the years there, you'd think things got better, and there was just been this weird. You and me have had just this constant thing of trying to find a setup that'll work.
And I mean, we've interestingly, we've landed on 2 different setups by this point, which mine works for me, but I don't like the disadvantage. Basically, I record with a GoPro on my chin, a separate audio recorder going to a mic in my helmet, and then I have a third camera which will be facing me, and then I have to splice all this stuff together for me. Now, the longest videos I tend to do are a bike review, in which case it's going to be a day's worth of filming. Annoying to sync together, but the idea of you doing that and some of the adventure trips that you do and have planned would be hell.
I did it on one. So I've gone back and forth over the years having different setups where, I've ran separate audio recorders as well, and God, it's so daunting to me. People are like, "How do I make videos like you?" And you're like, "Well, you got to have this thing, this several $100 recorder, this $700, so much." And then, but yeah, when you go on a big trip like that, it's ridiculous. I just recently, and this is very recent. I say within the last 4 or 5 months, there was an update. I've gone to the Insta360 4K mod, like on the 1RS platform, which can be set up basically. It's like a GoPro. This is one you could switch it to a 360 lens, but they've got a very small, great little mic adapter. Not only does it go into the port, it clips into the side of the little skeleton case it's in,
Yeah.
so it gives it structure. Because this is something I think you and me have both experienced too, is the wobble out of a USB over time, which actually will kill a camera, or at least your ability to film into it. But yeah, like I'm rocking that with a mic I found that works really. I won't get into it. I have a whole video if anyone's really interested exactly on this setup, but ease of use and quality, and that is just you're trying to find a balance. I think, like, I remember one time Casey Neistat did a really cool video talking about that, where he like made like a pie graph of like quality versus ease of use versus even money, like these different things you're trying to find, and different things are going to work better for you and your setup. Like no one's setup is going to be the same, and is a really good analogy, because it's like, yeah, like I could probably come up with setups that will be higher quality. Like, I'll be realistic. The as much as I like the Insta, the current GoPro is going to be a better quality picture if it can be reliable. I've had questionable reasons thinking it will or will not be, but that's not the point. Is that like I could do that. I could record my audio separately. I could basically bring the quality of both those up a little bit, but at the detriment to possible reliability and workflow, and just possibly mess ups in the field. I mean, I've had times where I was recording audio, because you're on the go, on the road, and you have the audio recorder running, and I'll have like a 10-hour audio recording with like multiple start stops in there. How do you find them?
Well, clapping.
It's not a simple way. One of the things I used to do is I would actually reach up and quickly, I had a way I could disconnect it real quick. So I was about to start doing a recording. I would pop it and pull it back in, because it created a dip in the thing. Yeah. But even then, over 10 hours, go find that dip.
True.
It was just insanity. And but yeah, I mean, today, luckily, there's numerous options out there. It's still not as straightforward as it should be, though.
I think you made a good point, though, which is that a lot of people say, I'd like to start motovlogging. And it's like, right, in the early days, you don't need to have this multi-$100 camera, multi-$100 this, that. You can start with a simpler setup and get 95% of the way there, but you don't need to spend nearly as much. But as you were saying, one of the problems is, as you push this, like I was using a drift before I got my GoPro, and I was having problems with my computer not being able to keep up with it. So then I built a new computer, which then my cameras broke, so I got a GoPro, and then I realized I could push what I could record again, because I had a GoPro that could handle that. Then I pushed the quality of what I'm trying to do with that, and then my PC couldn't deal with that, so I had to upgrade my PC again recently. So every time...
Yeah, it does. It forces us, and also you and me rendering footage constantly is hard on computers. You and me have definitely gone through computers over the years. But the thing I think is really funny is that computers, internet speed, and camera quality have all kind of had to bump up in stages. Back in the day when we were doing 720p video out, you're like, well, that's fine. I mean, like, I remember back then, if I even tried to click a 1080p, it would hit play and have to load. I couldn't watch a 1080p video on YouTube. No.
I do think, though, that one of the nice things with cameras is that there is a point that enough is enough. Like, you don't need more than... I mean, I'm going to say, for me, 2.7K 60 FPS, as long as it's a good high bitrate image, is as much as anyone ever needs. Okay, if you're watching on a 4K screen, fair enough. If you want to go to 4K, fine.
Think about this, though. I was thinking about this, right? A technology that's going to become cheaper and cheaper and faster is going to be like this, like this digital upscaling that can be done. It's going to get to a point where it's going to be so good, dude. I bet you it won't even matter. Like, it will. Like, you could record it. It's like, it's fine as long as you got a decent recording. The AI is going to figure it out. It's going to do it.
Yes, to a point, I agree with you, but I do not believe you can ever replace digital pixels and make it look real.
We're going to get replaced by just straight AI.
Yeah, they're not. We just won't even
motorcycle influencers.
Text
not even going to be real.
Text to video is now really progressing. As in, you can put a video saying, I would like a person stood in front of a tree talking about lemonade. And it will just blip.
Yep.
I mean, in the future, we won't even have to make vlogs. We'll just say, make a vlog in the style of Jake the Garden Snake talking about this. Blip, upload.
Yeah,
done.
well, I've seen a few things where people do podcasts, ask the AI to explain something as that podcaster would explain it, like some thing that they would talk about, and then that podcaster will get the script that it said and say it back in their voice, and you would never know. You're like, yeah, that sounds exactly like how you would talk about this, and it's.
Well, LTT did that.
And here's the thing: it's only going to get better, right? This is like I know Brian Griffin always says that. He's like, this is the worst it's ever going to be, and you're like, that's terrifying.
2 years ago, I think it was, or a year and a bit ago, I talked about AI and said about a few things which are now coming to fruition. And I'm like, I have done this with so many different things at this point. When you remember when drones were called quadcopters or multi-rotors, because the first ones had 3 blades, not 4. I talked about how they were a platform and it is going to have big implications in the future. And I said it stands out as a technology which has more potentials than anything that's been out for a very long time. It's just in the past year changed warfare forever.
Well, where should I invest my money then? Come on, man. I need some stonks. AI. There you go. AI stonks. Yeah, that's the thing. Well,
that's where AI is going to very possibly
but then we're going to support
ruin
them.
the
They're going to kill us
workforce and a lot of stuff.
I don't know.
So if you own some of it, ask AI what to do.
AI. It's funny. You actually asked AI what to name this podcast for a while there.
I did try that.
Yeah, but it was coming up with some silly.
Someone did give an AI some money, a portfolio, and just said, "Go and make some money for me," and it did.
That's crazy. I wonder too. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, we are getting on a little bit. So we've moved through the book of code. We talk about the camera. I think nowadays with the cameras, basically the answer is you can find simple solutions for a few $100 that's good enough, and you can find solutions like ours, which are quite expensive but usable. And then there's even a level above that where you stick a black magic on the top of your head or something like that, and now you're talking about.
I don't want to keep pushing that I did a video about this, but I do think my current setup does slot in a nice. I'd still say fairly affordable thing, because I think that camera now is I think it might even be under 300 for just if you just got the single module 4K. I think it's like upper 200s. So if you got that, the mic, the whole setup, I think you would maybe be 350 for everything in US dollars.
Using the Insta360,
the 1RS with the if you got just a single. I remember seeing an ad. Could be wrong. I swear that I remember seeing an ad that they had dropped it to like $299 or something for that camera, because it has been out for like 2 years now.
Significantly cheaper than
because it's just you're just getting the single you're getting the single 4K, but it is a really cool thing with that camera because it does have that like, hey, if you want to do this other stuff, you can pop they have like more than 3 now. They got like 4 or 5 different things that can load onto that single module. So
where's my notes? I had notes to try and keep us on track, and I've lost my notes. So find my notes.
Do you remember? I'm gonna. Do you want to talk about this is just funny, silly personal thing between you and me, but it just kind of back in anything. You had a card. I won't say what the name of the card was, but it was a card that was supposed to keep me in check.
Oh, no, Jay. I'm going to get it.
Oh, no.
Where is it?
He still has it. Yeah, I tell him, I said, because there was a point where I saw I was gaining very quickly in subscribers and popularity, and I said, you got to keep...
There's Jake's broken plate.
Oh, that's it.
But anyway, these are what he's referring to.
The card is meant to keep me. If I'm ever getting too big of a head, and you need to.
Hang on a minute. Do you remember there was 2 cards?
Was there? Okay. Well,
right. We've already talked about him. So if he watches this, M13, we love you, dude. You were there before any of us. We are totally indebted to you. There was the M13 card, which was don't do something that sounds a bit too much like M13 at the time.
Yeah.
And then Jake went to a new level, and it became the Jake card, which has the Queen on it.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a same pack of the same cards
I sent them
that
to
you sent me, and you sent them to me because I think it was illegal for you to send those to me.
Yes, it is.
All things.
It was illegal for you to send you playing cards.
Is it because it's like gambling
related? Yeah.
Okay.
I also can't send you a copy of the Times because someone wrote something in the Times about America once that you didn't like, so they just went, "That's it. Times illegal. Never coming in the country."
Really?
Yeah.
But I've seen the Times over here.
Not our versions, you haven't.
Oh yeah, that was like back in the day. Do you know when they? Okay, this is completely off subject, but it's funny. Us over here in America for most of the seasons of Top Gear as the real Top Gear with the three guys on there. For most of the time that was on the air, you could not watch it in America unless you watched it illegally. Not till the very tail end of it did they finally start bringing it over here to America. But we had commercials in our version, and it was still only an hour long, where you guys had an hour straight block, and they edited out anytime they said something critical about America for our version.
It's not critical. It was a joke.
But that was the thing. Everybody that was a fan of it, that knew what it was like, what the hell is this? So we all went back to watching it illegally again. And then they finally said, fine, we won't do that, but we have to put our commercials in. So it became an hour and a half long show, which nobody would put up with. So we all just went to watching it illegally again. I think a long time there I was using like a VPN or something just to say I was from the UK, and I could just go into bbcs.com or whatever, .gov, whatever it's called, and just watch it on there. But we all had our ways. And the filtering out of things for us over here gets annoying, especially with the internet now. It's like that's so defeatable, and it works for old people.
Yeah, there's lots of things that they're trying to control that a VPN just completely ruins. And that's a great segment to our sponsor. No, we don't have one. Hello, get us a sponsor. See NordVPN. You could have been there, but you weren't.
I just did an ad for him actually recently. So
sorry, it was sounded like such a good.
I actually just got an email.
So good to lead into an ad.
I could probably do a NordVPN ad off the top of my head. I've done them so much, but we'll save that for another time.
So I could ask AI to do one in a style of Jake the GardenSnake.
I probably could do one for Raid Shadow Legends if I had to as well too. I've done them so many times. You know what though? Here's what I'll say about these ones that they're like, at least they're supporting a PS4.
Yeah, no, I completely. They are. The only reason,
and they'll even they'll let you even be silly and know that it's almost a meme to be sponsored by them. Like that's in their script now. They're like, we understand that it's funny that you're being sponsored by us now, so just play into that.
Yeah,
like,
there is a difference. I will say that Raid Shadow Legends is what it is, and it is what it is, and we all know what it is. At least it's not a company promoting a product which I think is 10 times overpriced for what it actually is.
Oh. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
talk about it if you want. I think it's hilarious, but it's fine.
Do you want me to talk about it?
It's not have any relation to what our video's about, but only
because I don't know if you ever thought you might get another ad.
No, well, I ruined that with them anyway. I burnt that bridge because they were lowballing me so much. But fine, we'll just say it. We've done too deep into it. Both of us have been approached by Ridge Wallet at different times. The Ridge, and for me, they wanted to pay me to do ads, but pay me to do it's such a ridiculously joke of a rate. And I finally threw it back at him because, well, I'm friends with Do It With Dan, and Do It With Dan had told me what they were paying him, and I threw that back at him, was like, pay me at a similar CPO rate or whatever rate, and they were like, stop talking to me after that. And then they weren't even going to pay you; they were just going to give you one of their wallets as payment for doing it. Was like, okay,
no.
And then you instead you were gonna make your own. I remember because you were doing the Metalworks, right? But then you just found you could buy a knockoff one for cheap.
I was gonna make one, and then I realised that I was looking for a template for one, and I thought, right, the easiest way to get a template is to buy a knockoff version and then use that to template my version. And then the carbon fibre knockoff turned up, and this thing costs £15 opposed to the 130 that Ridge Wallet's version did. And I looked at it and I went, no, there's no point. That is it. That is so much better than what I could ever do. and then at that point, I couldn't understand how they were charging what they were charging. Even with that, they've got a lifetime warranty. I can buy 10 of these. I can have a brand new one every 10 years or every 5 years or whatever for the same cost of one of them.
Yeah, well, this goes back to our thing of trying to be somewhat, reasonable. Because I've definitely been approached by numerous things that I've turned down because things like that, I didn't think it was worth its value. There's a really crazy one that, God, I've seen other people go down this. I'm like, this is really crazy, is alcohol. I will not advertise alcohol. No, because the laws around advertising alcohol are so strict, and they're per different country. Even if I understood how to do it in the U.S. and did it correctly, I'd have to limit that to a U.S.-only video because every country has its own laws, and I could get in, obviously I'm not going to go get extradited to the U.K. if I do it wrong over there, but I could definitely get blocked over here.
You might get chucked in the tower. Mate of mine chucked in the tower a few years ago. Never seen him since.
They made a movie about that, didn't they?
I will say that I've just looked at my list of things we should talk about in this video, and we have managed to hit every single one of them quite well. And
I'm proud of that.
We're an hour and 40 minutes, so I think we can. Is there anything else you want to talk about today?
What did we name this thing? Didn't we decide? And I already forgot.
What, the Spicy Jake podcast?
That's it. Thank you for watching the Spicy Jake podcast.
Oh, is he going already? Is there nothing else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Yeah, are we good? I mean, we covered it.
I think
we'll think of something.
Well, actually, no. There is one thing I want to talk about. Do you think it is easier now to grow a big channel on YouTube than it was in the days that we started?
I didn't used to, but now I'm almost wondering because I see a lot of this. There's definitely a problem that you and I will run into because our channels are so old. And
if you haven't blown up to 1 million by now, why are we going to help you?
And then and there's the way the algorithm looks at our channels is that they're like basically dying channels is how they'll look at them, whether they are growing or not. And where someone starts a fresh channel off, I was riding with Jixer Bro the other day. Jixer Bro, he's a very silly guy, and he was showing me. He's like, look, this is my channel I've been working on for 6-7 years. He's showing me he's got like 170 something thousand subscribers. Then he shows me his shorts channel that he's making on the side. His shorts channel has like I think twice that many subscribers. 3-4 times the views. It's actually making him decent money too, and he's convinced me that I need to do it. And so I've been trying to do that, but the problem is, and I think what he's saying, I've been throwing shorts up on my old second channel, and he was like, no, you got to make a completely unrelated channel to you. You will have to have the same AdSense thing because that's related to your social, but he's like, you got to make a complete separate email, separate everything, so it looks fresh on YouTube's end.
I was going to say,
they'll push it.
Are you aware that YouTube has reduced the amount of subscribers and view hours or something to get monetization again? Just recently, they have reduced it to something much more manageable, I think. I've only had this memory back here of seeing that.
Yeah,
but I'm sure it's not 4,000.
They've also messed everything up recently, so they're going to...
Oh, yeah, I mean, now it's basically saying everyone can get some money, of which there is none for you to have anymore, but at least everyone's willing to have some who can't have
there's basically been a thing recently, and I guess, where what was the story that they've basically been doing something wrong? The way
right, so the long and short of it is Google were placing adverts for companies who are paying them to advertise for them. They were paying for, like, on YouTube, played in full, something like that, and what they may have ended up getting was a banner ad muted on the side of another website, which wasn't basically fulfilling the terms and conditions of YouTube themselves.
Yes,
which means that they may need to refund a lot of big companies a lot of money for not fulfilling where they were supposed to put those ads.
I saw someone doing a video on that was explaining that this actually does happen. Like, this is on a huge level, but like it's definitely not unreasonable, and case law will already exists. It says, they're going to have to refund these people. And it's such a huge amount, even for a huge company like them. And here's the thing. Realistically, it's not a huge amount. They'll be fine. But they're going to still treat it like it's a loss to them. And it's going to be like,
we're paying it.
We'll have to pay it back.
We paid for Adpocalypse. We're going to pay for this again.
Yeah. Hooray.
Oh, well.
Become a motovlogger. It's great.
No, something I will say. Do you remember in the early days how many people said to you about, oh, what camera have you got? I want to get this up. I want to do this. When did someone last ask you, I want to be a motovlogger, what camera should I get?
And like, in my Discord, I get asked that because that's just that crowd of people.
That's a catchment.
Yeah, otherwise, no. I can't even tell you last time. It was funny. Like there was like when I first started doing these videos, I had my local riding friends. I didn't even tell them I was doing this because I was embarrassed. I was like, they'll think it's weird. They'll think I'm a weirdo for making these moto vlogs. Then it blew up and became this thing where everybody that rides was like, well, I got to do it too. This is so awesome. And now it's almost refiltered back, and people are like, what do you do? Like if I'm actually talking to just general people out there riding, like obviously they're aware of it as a thing now, but it's like it doesn't have that grip that it had at one point. Like you and I, this is, I think, a good thing to bring it around to, is that when we did what we were doing, this was a really cool outlet for people that were trying to get into riding. It still is, but that was a huge, like basically almost everybody for a while there that got into riding, you would go up to and say, who's your favorite motovloggers? And they would ring off a number of people because that was, and now it's just not necessarily a thing anymore.
I think part of that, and what I've always done, I've always made videos, as you know, but to people who maybe don't know me, I make videos to help get people on bikes, to get through all the UK's silly laws of how you get onto a bike. In America, it's Did he drop it? No, there we go. Go get a booster, bro. You're fine.
Yeah, you go get him out of a Cracker Jack.
Here it's a lot more difficult, and you have to really help people through it. But I think that people who get onto motorcycles in the UK, they tend to do it if their uncle rides, their dad rides, their brother rides, someone in their family rides, a friend of their family rides. It's what gets them in. If you're not directly connected to someone else who rides a motorcycle, very few people will actually get them. And that's one of the things that I think we both tried to do, was to show people the fun of motorcycles and be like, look, come and join this and do this. And then we became like, you were the one who helped us. You were the one who gave them that kick into getting a bike, and it's because of you. Like, I have people say that to me all the time.
Do you remember too that not everyone, but there was a lot of the influencers, motovloggers back in the day when we started, were very serious. They had serious intros. They were serious. There was this thing of when we ride, and it's this whole, I'm right here on these streets, and that's from. There's definitely people that will be attracted to that. I think people are looking for like that lifestyle kind of thing, but I think there's a lot of people that's intimidating, and it's silly, and it's looked as kind of corny, and I think we were a lot more inviting how we were approaching it.
I know this dude, and I hope, and you know him too, and I hope he's going to take this the right way, but you are the resistance.
Well, and being a Trek fan, I would always say that. You know what my comment back to that was resistance is futile.
It was not. I was not making an epitome of him. I'm just saying it was a
that was
a little more
brand.
serious.
Yeah, it worked well for him.
It does.
Work well for him. Yeah.
I still follow him to this day.
Big OGs, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of the OGs. And that's another one. It's like there are some.
You'd like him because he's y'all would be about. I think y'all would be at the same height. He's huge. He's a huge man.
Yeah,
you're not. You're skinny,
now I've lost
though,
the advantage.
Oh, sorry.
That's why I'm friends with you. You're small with hairy hobbit feet.
Yeah. Yes. Spicy is 6'4", right?
4.
Almost 6'5", right? Or, yeah, like
6'4".
So
I was 6'5". My spine's seen to that binge.
Yeah, and I'm not short. I'm around 6 foot. I was at one point 6'1" on my driver's license. I'll have you know, but I too have had 2 slip discs in my back, and I think I've just come back under the 6 foot mark now.
Oh no! Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 5'11" something now.
To be honest with you, as someone who's 6'4", I would much rather be short because I wouldn't have a bad back. I'd fit in beds. I don't have to duck under door frames.
And then people look at you.
I also,
you're not a complete freak, but I'm sure people go,
I'm in the one. I'm basically in a number in the UK. Only 1% of the population is 6'4" or above, which means that I may meet 2 people a year, 3 people a year who are taller than me. And I often get people saying, "Oh, you're tall. Could you grab that from the top shelf for me?" And you're like, "All right."
And then pretend you have T-Rex arms.
But if I turned around and went, you're really short. Can you grab that from down there? Because my knees are killing me. They're not going to take that the right way.
The struggles. Well, anyways.
I think we've covered the history of motovlogging quite well.
Or probably terribly, but whatever. We've said what we want to say.
No one else knows it. They weren't around.
Yeah, we could have made it up. We used to ride horses actually when we started doing this, and there was naked women everywhere. It was the weirdest thing, you know.
It was.
Their clothes fell off. Anyway.
Right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Of course, this one's on Jake's channel. The next one will be on my channel. Have you got any suggestions for the subject of the next one? May not happen, as in the sense of we do that subject, but we're always willing to listen.
Yep. Thanks for watching. May the force be with you. I don't know. Bye-bye.
Bye.